It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. Many of you may recognize that introduction as you heard it at the beginning of every episode of Star Trek. Well, if space is the final frontier, our guest today is making it safer for us to get there. As founder and CEO, our spotlight speaker is an active and recognized figure in space exploration and disability advocacy. His commercial spaceflight regulatory expertise, coupled with his tremendous reach in the space industry, led him to found Scout Space Incorporated, a spaceflight hardware, software, and data provider developing solutions for improved safety and transparency in space. Previously, he served as an aerospace engineer at the FFA office in the commercial spaceflight division. He is also a board member at the Space Frontier Foundation, an organization team member and ambassador for Mission Astro Access, and serves on the advisory committee on commercial remote sensing. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome to Entrepreneur Spotlight Eric Ingram, founder and CEO of Scout Incorporated.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good morning, Eric. Scout Space is changing the way space operations can be done by building vision-based autonomy solutions for Earth and space, which lets systems better identify and avoid risk and failures. How and when did you come up with the idea to start Scout?
It was really a combination of a lot of different things. I've done many different things in the space industry, everything from engineering to regulatory work, and had a lot of insights from all of those jobs. And at my job prior to founding Scout, which is at the FAA, I got a lot of insight into the growth of the industry and where there were gaps in what we were developing. Space is already a crowded place, and over the next decade, we're going to launch 40 times the number of satellites that are currently operating. At the same instance, we're really not building up the infrastructure needed to support that growth and the complexity of future space operations. So as a space nerd myself, wanting to see all of those cool things that I saw in sci-fi TV shows and movies growing up happen in real life, I realized that if space was not a sustainable and safe place to operate for all of the users, none of that would be possible. So I wanted, my input to space exploration and having all that fun stuff happen was just to make help build out the infrastructure, make it a safer place to operate in, and provide more knowledge and awareness of the space ecosystem so that we can grow to the potential that I know we're able to reach.
How did you come up with the origin or the company name? What's the origin of the company name?
It's a bit of a debate between me and my co-founder about what came first, either the name Scout or an acronym we came up for it, which is Spacecraft Observing and Understanding Things, which kind of started as a joke. And it coalesced into Scout and the branding we have around it. We did have another name when the company was first started, which was not nearly as cool, and our branding was not nearly as good. But really excited with how it turned out.
Eric, you founded your company here in Fairfax County. What organizations did you find helpful when you were getting started, and what entrepreneurial resources did you tap into?
So locally, I got involved with the DC Startup Week ecosystem. I know a few of the people running that organization. And additionally, as a person with a disability, I was looking for resources for entrepreneurs and founders with disabilities out there, and there are practically none. But a startup accelerator I found, which is called Together International, is based in the DC area, and it is for founders with disabilities, entrepreneurs with disabilities. And so I got tied in with that network and the DC Startup Week network, and also Fairfax County Economic Development Authority has been very helpful in the growth from the very beginning, even before like we had nothing that we could actually utilize. We were in contact with those organizations, and we're really able to build up a local network and resources through those.
Thank you. And it's interesting that you mentioned DC Startup Week. As a matter of fact, it's occurring currently. It is going on right now.
Yeah, don't tell them, but I was unable to make a talk that they invited me to because I'm actually traveling right now. I'm in New York City. So if you hear any random sirens and noises, it's because it's not just the city that never sleeps, it's the city that never quiets down also.
Well, we do appreciate you being here. Thank you. The commercial space industry is becoming of increasing interest to entrepreneurs. Why is this surge in interest occurring, do you think?
It's a lot of things kind of coming together, which is, I guess, a recurring theme here. But through companies like SpaceX and Virgin Orbit and Rocket Labs and companies like that, the cost of launch is decreasing. It is about a fifth of the cost of what it was about a decade ago, a little over a decade ago. And additionally, the size of electronics is decreasing while their abilities and capabilities are increasing. And all of those things combine to make it so that more business cases close. You're able to do more in space with less hardware, or smaller hardware, less cost, smaller volume, lower mass, which enables a lot more things. So you're seeing a flurry of different business models that suddenly make sense. And so there's more companies that can launch spacecraft to do Earth observation, communications, various science missions, in-space manufacturing, a ton of things that were financially and technologically not feasible 10 years ago suddenly are. And especially as software increases in complexity and capability, you're finding more businesses that are based purely on software so that you can leverage assets that are already in orbit to do different things. And so all of those things kind of combine for a lot of different opportunities that are suddenly feasible and doable. And that's beneficial for a company like ours, because that means there's more of a need for better knowledge of where your satellite is, what's around it, and all of that, so that you can operate safely.
With the lower cost and greater opportunities, what are some of the advantages for space companies of being located in the region, or here specifically in the county?
The US government is the largest single customer for space-related products and services. Even though there is a thriving commercial industry, usually that commercial market lags the government for each sector. And so having access to different parts of the government that do operations in space is not just the Defense Department, but you've obviously got NASA, you've got Department of Commerce with NOAA, and a few other entities out there that have space operations. And so being able to build those connections, access the physical infrastructure as well, and also the other larger contractors that are working for the government is fairly useful. All of the big primes have fairly substantial presences locally. And so that's useful. Additionally, being in a highly regulated industry, being that much closer to rulemaking processes and all of the governmental processes that happen is very useful as well.
So you mentioned government, you've mentioned the commercial primes that are here. Do you collaborate with other space companies that are located here?
Yes, I am firmly of the belief that all ships rise with the tide. And, I'm always looking for ways to make competitors friends. And, with that, a lot of space companies are building some fairly niche or narrowly focused products that work well with other companies' products. And so there's always opportunities to collaborate and see how each other's resources can benefit one another. So we have had conversations with local larger companies in the space industry, some smaller ones as well. And whenever there is a partnership or opportunity or customer vendor relationship that makes sense, we're open to pursuing that.
And it's great to hear that as a startup, there are those opportunities to work with and have conversations with the larger companies. You recently won an AFWorks contract. Tell us a little bit about that and what that means to the growth and expansion of your business.
Yeah, we've actually been very fortunate in the last, I think, little over 9 months. We've been awarded 6 government contracts, 5 of which are in the SBIR, STTR framework. We've got 2 phase 1 SBIRs, 2 phase 2 SBIRs, and a phase 2. I messed up some words there, but we got a few different contracts which have allowed us to grow as a company and further develop our technology. So we're working on things related to optical relative navigation, to things like guidance navigation, control, algorithm development, and also things like data structure formatting, so that we can better integrate the data we're collecting with current systems that utilize the data, and also ways to fuse space-based space domain awareness data with ground-based space domain awareness data to make more robust products and to make it more of a collaborative and mutually beneficial environment.
Well, congratulations on all of those contracts. That's great to hear. So I'm going to transition a little bit. Tell us about your leadership role in Astro Access. How does the organization advance disability inclusion in space?
Yeah, Astro Access is something that should have existed a while ago. As I have a person with a disability, I mentioned before, I use a wheelchair. I've applied to be an astronaut twice, knowing full well I'd get denied, just because, why not? And Astro Access is really laying the groundwork to make sure spaceflight is accessible to everyone, regardless of physical disabilities or otherwise. So if you look at the big scheme of things and the timeline of humanity, we're at the very beginning of human spaceflight. And when you're at the beginning, it's the easiest time to develop and adapt things and design things for the good of everyone. So Mission Astro Access's mission is to actually put forward tests and experiments and find out the best ways to make things accessible to all. So we do that primarily with microgravity parabolic flights in airplanes, where we've set up experiments to test things for people with mobility impairments, people with vision impairments, and people with hearing impairments. And we're expanding the envelope for disabilities we're doing research for in ways that we can better navigate in microgravity, maneuver, and perform operations, so that not only can we have the same access and ability to use space infrastructure, but that we can also be just as useful in the space environment as any able-bodied person would be. And we're finding that there's actually advantageous things that come along with certain disabilities. So we're exploring things like that as well.
Thank you. On the entrepreneurial journey, what are the top 3 skills or qualities, characteristics that you have found to be an absolute necessity as an entrepreneur?
Oh, top 3 skills. Okay. One is to just go out and do stuff. I don't know if there's a singular word for that, but trial and error is a whole thing. Don't overthink things. So I'll put that in one category. The second is to be able to overcome, I don't want to say failure, but bumps in the road. The earlier the company is, you will have more bad days than you have good days. And as you grow and as you develop the company, those good days eventually start outnumbering the bad days, and suddenly all of your hard work starts paying off. So I guess resilience would be the word for that. And the third is just creativity. It's creative problem solving is how you get through this. You're starting something new. So with something new, that means all the things that have previously worked for others might not work for you. So being able to adapt on the fly and think creatively and apply different ways of problem solving to get through whatever issues you're having, I think are pretty crucial.
We have time for one more question. In our time remaining, what additional information would you like to share with our viewers?
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to something I just stated, but if you have an idea for a business, just go out and start something. But don't quit your job just to go out and start something. When I started my company, I founded it in January, and I didn't leave my full-time cushy government job until October. And so if you have a good idea, test it. Spend a whole weekend developing the thought process, see what comes out of it, go talk to potential customers. And then eventually, if it's worth building, spend more time building it until the point where it's doable or you find out it's not. Fail quick or fail fast, I think is something that happens. But just go out and try stuff. Don't just think about things, go out and do, and then you can figure out if it's a good idea or not by testing the market.
Eric Ingram, founder and CEO of Scout Inc. Thank you so much for sharing your entrepreneurial journey and lessons learned along the way.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
This concludes our program. Thanks again to all of our guest speakers. On behalf of FCEDA President and CEO Victor Hoskins and all of my FCEDA colleagues, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. I hope that we have provided valuable insight and advice on how to start and grow your business. For more information about the work of the FCEDA, please visit www.fairfaxcountyeda.org. Stay safe and be well.